What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. And we are back with myself, Huzaifa, the Superman, and Justin Guitar Hero James. And we are very excited to report that we had some nice little growth this week. So right off the top, we're up to 431 subs. I think earlier in the week, we were at like 419 or 418. So first of all, we do have any new subscribers that are joining the live stream today right now. Welcome. It's so great to see you and so great to have you as part of the 10-7 community and the 10-7 army. So that's really fun. And we're going to talk, me and Justin, after this about how we can create better content for you guys more consistently. You know, I was on MMA Joey's stream last night. He's becoming one of my favorite YouTubers in this space for mixed martial arts. And I was actually talking to him. Western Mass Climber says, look at them biceps. Hey, look at this. Let's compare. Let's compare.
Come on, man. Oh, yours are bigger than mine, dude.
Yeah, right. No, yours are way bigger. But so anyways, we I was talking to MMA Joey, and MMA Joey was talking about his growth and his trajectory and how things began for him on the YouTube platform and whatnot. And I think he did remind me specifically and said, hey, look, my numbers were low for a long time until they started picking up. But the other thing that I do notice about MMA Joey is he is a beast when it comes to content. He's got something new almost every day. And I think me and Justin can match that for sure, especially with the two of us together. So we are going to strive for that. I'd love to know everybody's thoughts in the comments or in the chat as well. You know, what are the things that you want to see from us? Our takes on, more specific, like bite-sized topics, which I love to do. What's up, Celine? Which I love to do. And I know Justin loves to do that as well. And we can rock these videos out and give you more thoughts. But tell us, what would you like to see from us? Or what do you think is missing from MMA YouTube in particular? Because I feel like this space is the real deal. This is where I now go myself. I go to MMA Joey. I go to MMA Guru. I go to the incredible show with Kamaru, Pound for Pound with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo, all these amazing YouTube channels. That's where I go to learn most of my information about MMA news and what's happening in the world of mixed martial arts. Not necessarily traditional journalistic like staples like ESPN or whatnot. So we want to be a part of that, and we hopefully can add some interesting color and flair, especially given that Justin himself is a professional fighter and he has that knowledge and expertise. So anyways, let us know what you want us to talk about and focus on as more show with fighters. Yeah. So Celine wants more of those interviews. By the way, Pern did comment. He was like, oh my God, I didn't realize you had Brad Tavares, who's on the show, who's such a legend. Actually, wait, let me read you his comment real quick. And I know I've got a bunch of comments I still have to respond to, guys, by the way, from what's it called? From the Khamzat video. So I am going to do that, but let me just look at all the latest comments. I want to read you what he said. So he said, here, let's see. Pern said, man, I missed you had a legend on. He stopped Phil Baroni like 200 UFCs ago. Left him so out he tried to take down the ref. I remember that fight clearly. Cost me a t-shirt in some MMA forum contest. So that's super cool. Mad respect to Brad Tavares. Thank you, Brad, for joining. We really appreciate it. So yeah, that's something we can do as well. All right. Without further ado, we got a lot of news coming down the pipeline since Khamzat Chimaev and Ilia Topuria rocked the world of mixed martial arts. I think I got to say, too, one other thing I wanted to just throw out to you, but you may not fall in the same category. One thing I will say in general, no matter what, and I always kind of ask myself this question, it's like, all right, we had something amazing happen. We had UFC 300. We have these other events. But I got to say, after each one of these events, I'm still excited and curious to see what Conor McGregor's return will be or what will look like, or does he still have a shot to climb back to the top? And I'm always kind of curious to know the answer to that. Lane, what's up? Nice to see you. But I will say this, and I want to know if you felt this way or maybe we're on two different planes in terms of this perception. But after the last UFC where we saw the rise of two potential superstars, one that I think can eclipse Conor McGregor, I really do. We'll talk about that in a second. But I saw that fight and I saw that UFC event and I was so blown away by it. That was one of the first times where I really felt uninterested or much less interested in seeing Conor's return. Like that just took my attention. Did you feel something similar to that, or were you already on that wavelength of like, I'm not so interested in Conor?
It's not so much I'm not interested in it. It's just, unfortunately, I mean, realistically, it's just probably not going to happen. I mean, again, we've talked about it on the show countless times. Why? What's his why? And I don't think his why is big enough to return to mixed martial arts, let alone being championship status. I think the sport has left him behind. The thing with MMA, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. Moves are changing, styles are changing. Again, we have that full MMA fighter. Conor isn't that full MMA fighter. He's that old school southpaw, really precise boxer. But again, if you don't have the wrestling right now, I mean, look at Max Holloway. He just got knocked out, and Max Holloway would have handled Conor McGregor, and people would be like, oh, well, they already fought, and Conor beat him by decision. Dude, they fought like 15 years ago. I think Max was like 20 years old or 21 years old. He was really young. Unfortunately, I love Conor McGregor because of his trash talk. He's arguably the best to ever do it. Him and Chael Sonnen, in my opinion, on the trash talk end. But I think this sport has left him behind.
Now, I heard somebody, I think it was Chael and DC or DC and somebody talking about Ilia Topuria compared to Conor McGregor. And one of the things he noted was like, Conor, man, he brought so much excitement and then he was doing all these amazing things. But at the end of the day, his game was incomplete. He just never had that wrestling base. So we knew he was going to run into trouble against grapplers. I mean, Khabib was one of a kind, but he did seem to run into some. I mean, he still did phenomenally well. If you look at his fight against Eddie Alvarez, Chad Mendez, etc., he came through and he accomplished what he needed to. But we kind of felt like he had a big weakness and a big gap that was ready to be exposed. He's like Ilia, on the other hand, doesn't have that deficiency. In fact, as amazing as his boxing and striking are, he's a grappler. So he's got that foundational base and he still uses it. He's not one of these guys like Justin Gaethje who has a tremendous grappling background but never uses it. He uses it. He uses it not just defensively but offensively. So potentially that ceiling for Ilia is much higher. Now maybe his trash talk is not as good. He doesn't have all the elements of Conor. Fine. But let me throw out one other scenario before we get into the topics today. And by the way, Western Mass Climber did remind us that you have a bet to settle, Justin, with Lane. But we're going to talk about that later, too.
I don't even know what the bet is. I remember he never even said what his side was. So,
by the way,
that's probably unlikely.
I think Lane is female. Actually, Lane, right? I think, Lane, you reminded us of that last time in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, so I think we have that picture of Alex Pereira in Lane's photo, so that's why it's a little we thought the other way. But anyways, so Lane, sorry, I hope I got that right. I hope I remember that right. But anyways, where I want to go with this, and this is what I was talking to MMA Joey about, is when we're trying to think of the next superstar in MMA, what have we been doing? We've always been like, who's the next Conor? And so we've been looking for like a cutout carbon copy of Conor McGregor to think that it's got to be that exact same formula to be the next Conor. Well, we didn't know that was the formula before Conor existed. Conor came, we're like, oh, he's got the perfect blend of this. It makes it so exciting, so engaged. We love to see him. He became the superstar. Now, for whatever reason, we have this bias that like the next big superstar is going to be like an amped up version of Conor McGregor, a super Conor McGregor. And we're like, well, Ilia Topuria is the closest thing to Conor McGregor. Guys, tell me in the comments, what if you agree with me? But what if the next iteration of superstar, the next coming of the one in the new Neo, if you will, in the Matrix, in the UFC, is we don't know what it is because it's never existed before. We don't know this caliber and this level of superstar. And that's why people are overlooking Khamzat Chimaev as the second coming of the superstar of the UFC. In fact, the real first coming of the superstar of this magnitude, because he doesn't look like Conor per se. He's his own breed. But what if that's just, we don't know. And then now he goes out and it continues to do what he's set out to do. And then we're going to see, I think, him come to fruition as the real superstar, the true megastar, the biggest star that the UFC has ever seen. I mean, what do you think about this? Or do you still think like it's got to be that blend that Khamzat's missing?
I'll give you my take on this. And you talked about Conor was the first of his kind. I disagree with you. Chael P. Sonnen was the first of his kind. We're talking about the Oregon badass, all right? We're talking about the most dangerous human being in the world. Chael Sonnen brought the entertainment to the UFC. Chael Sonnen showed the blueprint of how to trash talk in the correct way. I don't know if you were, I know that you're still, when I say new, I'm being very relative.
I know.
I don't mean so. Like you in the new fan, do you remember Chael Sonnen build up when he was getting ready to fight Anderson Silva and his fights leading up to that? Him on the mic, him in the commentary booth. Do you remember any of that?
So that was in that period of time where I had like kind of somewhat stepped away, but I've seen all of that stuff in retrospect. Like I've seen Chael's old fights against Anderson Silva and Jon Jones and whatnot. And I've seen the trash talk buildups in the press conference. So I'm very familiar with Chael Sonnen. And I know a lot of people say that Chael's trash talk was even better than Conor's, or that's how I don't agree, but I know people have said that. Yeah.
I don't agree either, saying that his was better. But it was original. He was the first person to do it. He showed the blueprint of how to talk trash. And how lucky am I? Jamie Huey, boxing instructor at Extreme Couture, is Chael Sonnen's coach. So when I was coming up on the scene early, even before I got to the UFC, in the UFC, I was able to pick Chael's brain and talk about and ask him like, hey, what sells and what's this? This guy is a fucking genius. Unfortunately, and this really sucks, but his skill set just never matched. And Chael, when I was in the UFC, he talked a little bit of trash on me, not a huge amount, but a little bit about when I placed that $20,000 bet, or he said it was a gimmick, which it wasn't. But I got to pick this guy's brain, and one of the things that I remember really, really well is give the people something to root for or root against for. You know, so like when my last fight, like I was on the undercard against Charles Rosa. So I was thinking to myself, what could I do as an undercard fighter that doesn't have that much notoriety to get people to tune into my fight? And what I did is I just gambled everything on myself. And I had my fight on the undercard was viewed just as much as most of the fights, if not more than the fights on the main card, because people were in tune to that. So when you take Chael Sonnen, now you go to advance Conor McGregor. Conor, I think, was a lot more witty than Chael. I thought he's a little bit quicker. He's a little bit more witty. So he took what Chael did and made it better. Plus, he had the skills to back it up. Now, when you look at someone like Khamzat, dude, I'm not as in love with him as much as you are, but man, I'm turning a corner right now. Like this guy, I'm sold. You know, if he wants to sell me crypto, I'm buying his crypto. Like I'm sold on this guy. He's the real deal. I've never seen anybody do what he did to Robert Whittaker on this, regardless of his crypto scam or what this or that. But unfortunately, you know, I don't. Could he be a great champion? Absolutely. And he might even be one of the best champions of all time. But I want to see his trash. Again, I come from a WWF era. When I say WWF, I'm talking about before the WWE. Like the Attitude Era, man. That's what brings me to the sport. And that's not for everybody. But for me personally, I thought Conor McGregor had the perfect trash talk from the WWE standpoint. He could back it up in his fights. The guy fought the best boxer in the world. And now when we talk about he had holes in his game, and you mentioned his holes with Khabib. Dude, Khabib's arguably one of the greatest MMA grapplers of all time. So how could, you know, I'm going to put you on blast a little bit, Jose, but how could you say he had a hole? He did have a little bit. But again, he lost to the greatest of all time in his aspect. So it's hard for me to call it a hole. I think his wrestling defense was really good just because you lost to the best in the world. Now, when you talk about someone like Topuria, who has those holes, I still don't like him on the mic. I still don't. I still think he's a little slow on the mic. It could be a language barrier, you know, but I still think he's a little slow. He's not very witty. Like when he talked to Max Topuria, like, oh, hey, brother, we fight for the BMF belt too. Like, I thought that was just fucking stupid and ludicrous. But Topuria's skill set is at that point probably above Conor's. So if we can shape out this, as long as he doesn't become some fake character like Colby Covington, Khamzat and Topuria have a chance to be shot into that stardom, but they do need to round out their edges. And when I say edges, I mean they're trash talk. Like neither of them are, they're okay, but they could definitely get better.
Fair enough. And I get your reference back to Chael Sonnen and maybe that blueprint did exist. I guess maybe it could get better. I think to me, what's going to be interesting, I think Khamzat gives it back really well when people come at him. When people try and talk smack to him, that's when he's amazing. Because it's just like, it's pure truth. It's kind of like how Khabib talks smack to people, right? When he's talking smack to Tony Ferguson, he wasn't like just making up funny jokes. He was just like, this guy is stupid. And he's just like being honest about it. He's like, you know, I told you, I respect him as a fighter, but he's stupid. He makes no sense. He does dumb things. Like I like that harshness and that directness. And Khamzat is kind of similar, but he's got a new brand. He's got a different brand than Khabib. He's not just a Khabib clone. So maybe it's a new style, and maybe that combined with just his amazing, relentless way of fighting, I think could be a trajectory that we haven't seen before to take to a new level of superstardom. It doesn't necessarily have to follow that typical trash talking blueprint is all I'm saying. But anyways, by the way, we got a couple of comments I want to show here from Lane. Lane says, she says, that was Western Mass Cloud first. Huge female percentage in this audience. You think you were good looking or something? Okay, wait, hold on. That's pretty funny.
It's the steps, man.
It's the bicep. Yeah. And then Lane says we never settled on our friendly bet, so we got to figure that out.
We got to figure it out. Might have to move on to the next card.
Wait a minute. Lane speaks Georgian? Is that real? Oh, with subtitles. Okay, sorry. I was like, whoa, maybe she understands Ilya's native tongue. Okay, before we jump into the topics, one last comment I got to read that really pissed me off today. I was super mad about it. So listen to this. And Justin, I want to get your opinion.
What's in reference to?
It's a reference to Khamzat. You know, the one
Okay.
thing that I'm fucking sensitive. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear. That I'm sensitive about. Okay, so here we go. Here's the comment from JUIC30. What I don't understand is people making such a big deal about Robert's jaw. Robert's teeth were loose before the fight. Robert was just unlucky that it was too loose that it gave in. Are there no sane content creators that are going to bring that up? I'm a fan of Khamzat, but please can't anyone speak the truth? Insane. Actually, before I even say anything, I mean, yeah, like, let me hear your thoughts as a fighter. Like, trying to make an excuse that was a fluke victory or something?
I mean, Rob is as tough as they come. You know, he's one of the best in the division. If he didn't feel his teeth were ready to take a punch, like get socked in the mouth, he wouldn't have taken that fight. Yes, I did hear they were loose. He had loose teeth going into the fight. He talked about it, but still, for Khamzat and that's the other thing. Like, did Khamzat know that? Is that why he gave him a more of a front face jaw lock, kind of like Habib did to Conor McGregor? Regardless if his teeth were loose or not. Like, again, Habib did it to McGregor. This is not the first time we've seen this submission. This is not a one and done kind of submission. This was a great, and that's the defense. You know, when you get rear naked choke, you want to tuck, and then you want to put it right on the chin or right on their lower teeth. Like, I'm not for it. I mean, you guys can talk about how loose his teeth were, or it doesn't matter. Regardless, even if his teeth weren't loose, that shit fucking hurts. Face cranks hurt. Jaw locks fucking hurt. And if you don't believe me, ask Conor McGregor.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the points I was just actually chatting with Louisa about that earlier. It's like the face crank did finish that fight. It's many people have talked about that, how it's extremely painful. At first people were like, oh, Conor just tapped because he was tired. No, that face crank. And again, I haven't been in that position, but like many experts have said that face crank is so painful and it can cause you to tap. Now, maybe Robert Whittaker's teeth wouldn't have pushed in, but let me put it a couple different ways. Number one, this is even a stupid point to bring up, but that the person brought up, JUIC30. So I can't even believe I'm responding to it. But the thing is like, look, even if the teeth wouldn't have pushed back in, I bet you that jaw pressure probably was enough. As strong as Khamzat is, as we can all see, probably would have gotten the tap anyways, just maybe not as quickly. Number one. Number two, he was about to get it. And this is a little bit of a what if scenario, but I do feel very confident that he was going to get it under the chin eventually if that didn't tap him out. I mean, it was only a matter of time. He had such a dominant position. Robert Whittaker couldn't do anything. So, I mean, I think to even bring something up like that is just stupid. And you go in with whatever condition you have. So what does this like delegitimize the win? Are you still not impressed with his amazing grappling and chain wrestling and how he stayed on top and Robert Whittaker couldn't get away? It was why are you even bringing this up? It's one tiny component of that victory. Anyways. Okay, let's and then Western Mass Climber says, are we going to see more teeth busted with the squeeze going forward? People have said yes, but experts have said yes. I'd love to hear Justin's take. Like Daniel Cormier and I think it was Daniel Cormier, other people like, hey, Khamzat is just Ben Askren said this. Khamzat has just proved that you can finish fights by choking somebody with the arm across the jaw. But you have to have his strength and you have to have his grappling ability. So you have to be able to apply enough pressure to get somebody to tap. Not everybody possesses that raw strength. Justin, what do you think? Do you agree? Are we going to see more of this in the UFC?
You know, I don't think we're going to see more or less. It's been a constant thing in the UFC. Again, we go back to Habib and Conor McGregor. That wasn't the first time this move has been hit. You know, there's an actual technique behind it. And you have to have the strength to do it. It's essentially a face crank, and sometimes you'll lock it in and you're squeezing and the guy doesn't tap, and sometimes you're gonna lock it in. It just really depends on the anatomy of your opponent, anatomy of yourself, what part. So like a lot of guys, like you look at your forearm, you know, you have your soft tissue, you have your muscle here. If this is across my face, it's not gonna hurt as bad as if you have this bone right here and you put it here. Next time we come into one-on-one, I'll show you the difference. And there's two different things. And a lot of times when you're locking up a rear naked choke, especially like a short choke, when I say short choke, I mean a gable grip and I'm squeezing in. I couldn't remember if Khamzat had a full rear naked choke or if it was going for a short choke. Again, I just saw the highlights of it. But when guys tuck their chin, we're taught to take this blade, this is just hard, solid bone, and put it right on the bottom of that jaw. So what a lot of guys will do in their defense, they'll reach up and they'll grab this hand and pull it down. They'll give it up because there's so much pressure and so much pain here. And next time you and I are together, Huzaifa, I'll show you the difference, and I'll show you the feeling difference, man. And it fucking sucks. And I would have no shame tapping to it for sure.
So here's what the choke was. It was like that. So it looks like it was the soft part of his arm was across the chin.
And that just goes to show how strong this motherfucker is. Like that's just, I mean, just to show is that's, I mean, this guy is a strong motherfucker. And again, I had Rob in this fight. Brad Tavares had Rob in this fight. We didn't think Khamzat were going to be able to take him down, and not only did he take him down, he subbed him in the first round.
And I mean, look at this. You can see he's got it fully locked in. His arm is right under, you know what I mean? He's got his arm, his hand tightly tucked underneath there. He's applying full pressure. So yeah, I mean, dude, he's so strong, and everybody recognizes that. So it is what it is. Okay, hold on. Oops, sorry, there's some weird ad popped up. Okay, let's get into our first topic, which we haven't even got to yet. It's like 20 minutes into the show. Huge news, lots of news that's been announced. Belal Muhammad, I'm sure you're not bummed about this. Belal Muhammad is out with, believe it or not, another toe injury. So now that's 2 toe injuries, disrupting or derailing 2 main events within the span of like 6 months or something, which is pretty crazy, 7 months, whatever. And yeah, Belal Muhammad is out. So there's a lot of people talking about replacement fights. They're talking about Shavkat Rakhmonov maybe taking on Kamaru Usman for an interim title belt. There's some other ideas that have been thrown out. I think somebody said Alex Volkanovski versus what's that dude's name? Diego Lopez for an interim, but I think that's been shot down or debunked. But here's the crazy one, is that Alex Pereira, once again, apparently has been called as a potential replacement to fight Magomed Ankalaev on short notice, but on December 10th. What do you, I mean, like, yo, I want to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think about this in terms of a potential replacement? Like, is this something, yeah. Are you more excited for an Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev fight than a Belal Muhammad versus Shavkat? First of all,
I'm more excited to watch an amateur fight than to watch Belal fight. And again, I got a lot of guys think I hate the guy or something. It's not that I hate the guy. I just don't care to watch him fight. It's not personal. But I don't know. I just don't like him on the mic, and he is trying to get creative with the style. He is striking into his wrestling. He's throwing a lot of kicks, and he's like, I don't know, man. It's just sometimes I just can't get behind the guy. And again, it's nothing personal. I don't even know the guy. It's just, you know, sometimes I'm excited about fighters and sometimes I'm not. And this is just one fighter I'm not excited about. So I can't say I'm disappointed that he backed out. Now we move on to Alex Pereira. Now that's a fight I could get excited about, especially against Ankalaev on a short notice. But I did read on Instagram this morning, and you got to take it with a grain of salt, that Alex's camp came out and said this fight is not happening. It's just a rumor. I don't think that. I'll tell you what, honestly, I'm not.
yeah, and
Yeah, no,
Lane is back. Lane is back.
yeah, absolutely. I agree with Lane 100%. But with that being said, I'm not that like, I think Alex is gonna walk through Ankalaev. Like, after watching his last performance, he didn't really mix his grappling in like I expected him to. I want to see, you know, the punching to the grappling, and I think if he stands with Alex Pereira, he's getting knocked out.
I kind of feel like that's going to happen too. I think Alex Pereira is going to get him. Now, I don't know. Maybe Ankalaev will change up his game tremendously. He said he won't, though. He said he wants to strike with him. So I guess we'll see. Plus, everybody's acting like if Ankalaev goes for the takedown, it's over. I don't even think that's necessarily true. He did fight already against Jan Blachowicz and did fine with his takedown defense. So I don't see why this would be that much different. And Ankalaev's got a lot of stuff he's got to think about as he goes in. But apparently I just now confirmed that. Dang it. I was so excited because apparently Alex Pereira posted a picture of a telephone saying UFC call me. And they were talking it over. I was like, oh my God, this would have been like the coolest year of all time for mixed martial arts and for the UFC. Imagine if we would have gone in there and then beat Ankalaev. Oh, it would have been too good. And then this whole discussion of who's the fighter of the year, is it Topuria or Alex Pereira? It'd be Alex Pereira by a landslide. By the way, somebody did convince me that I was convinced that Ilia Topuria might have a better shot and a better argument for fighter of the year, because they made the point that Max Holloway and Volkanovski are 2 of the great top 10 greatest fighters theoretically of all time that he beat back to back, which is pretty crazy.
He didn't beat him. He knocked him out.
Knocked him out.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, listen, I know I've made a video about why I thought Max was going to win. I'm still on the Max train. I'm still a huge fan of Max. But, man, I can't say enough about Ilia Topuria. Like, man, this guy is the real deal from a skill set. I'm really hoping his mic skills shape up over the next couple months or a year. But this guy is the real deal. He has all the skills to be the greatest featherweight of all time.
Yeah, 100%. So one last thing I want to ask, if it's not Alex Pereira, for some of those other options, would you be interested in a Shavkat versus Usman? I think that seems to be the most likely replacement. Shavkat versus Usman, interim title fight?
Yeah, I definitely. Usman was the champ for so long. He deserves it. Shavkat, this, I think it'd be a great handing of the torches. I think Shavkat handles Usman. Unfortunately, I just think, and I like Kamaru so much, man. Personally, I've met the guy. I've coached kids program, and I know I've mentioned before how I was coaching kids once. He walked out on the mat, he started wrestling around with the kids, yeah, impromptu at that, and I didn't ask him to do it. Nobody asked him to do it. He just did it because how excited the kids got seeing him on the mat. So I'm a huge Usman fan. Unfortunately, I just think he's past his time right now. I think his championship reign was over. I know he's dealing with a lot of knee injuries, consistent knee injuries. I've heard crazy stories when has to walk upstairs, he has to walk backwards and shit upstairs, just crazy stuff. Let alone to get in there and go against a guy that's 18-0 with 18 finishes. I think this would be an incredible handing of the torch. But what if Usman came back and beat Shavkat? That would
That'd
be
be cool.
incredible. That
That'd
would
be
be
so
fucking
cool.
awesome, man. And I would love it. I'm not putting any money on this fight because I want Usman to win. But to answer the challenge of Shavkat, who's been preparing for Belal. So, Usman, I mean, if he comes into this fight thinking he's going to take Shavkat down, I just don't see that happening because, again, Shavkat has been preparing for Belal, preparing for his takedown defense. I think this is a great toss, let me think. What's in softball terms or basketball terms? I think this is a layup for Shavkat. This would be a great passing of the torch to Usman and Shavkat.
Well, I don't know. So let me tell you a couple things. I get it. You're saying maybe he's getting up there in age, I guess. But now I think you got to look back at that Khamzat Chimaev fight in a different lens. I mean, think how badly Robert Whittaker got dominated. If you look, Kamaru Usman came off short notice. He did great against Khamzat. He survived the storm. He put up a great fight. Granted, Khamzat had broken his hand, whatever. But the fact that he didn't get finished or didn't get submitted in round one, I know it sounds kind of silly to say this, but I think we can now see how dominant and how kind of like insanely talented Khamzat is. And I think Kamaru Usman might still have exactly what it takes. We go back also, Leon Edwards, the first fight he won, he just got head kicked at the end, and he won until he didn't. He was doing great. Somebody made a point that even in the second Leon fight, or the third Leon fight, technically, that I think Leon had cheated a fair amount in that fight. I'd have to go back and watch, but this is what MMA Joey has been saying over and over, that he did he cheated a lot in that fight, I think, with like fence grabs and different things like that. I'm not sure all the different ways that were determined to be cheating. But anyways, I'm just saying, Usman, if you look at his record, 3 losses in a row, it looks bad, but it's not nearly, I think, the reality of the situation. So I think this would be a very interesting fight. I'd love to see it. Last thing, I'm a huge fan of Kamaru Usman also lately, less so because of his fighting, but more so because of his podcast. He is awesome on his podcast with Henry Cejudo. You guys have got to check it out. I think they do a great job together, but really the one that makes that show is Usman. He's honest with his opinions. He's very insightful. He's so intelligent. So I would definitely recommend checking out their podcast. I think it's called Pound for Pound. And yeah, it's really phenomenal. And Lane said he is what I said. Wait, Lane, were you talking about Usman somewhere? Oh, I'm not sure. Or maybe you're talking to Western Mass Climber. Okay, anyways, let's move it on to topic number 2. Chimaev is back in the topics. Dricus du Plessis wants Chimaev. Now, I know that your boy Sean Strickland's not going to be happy about this, but I just want to play a little bit of this interview really quickly here, and you guys can see what Dricus has been saying. I love it. I'm becoming such a big fan of Dricus. The fact that he's calling out Khamzat is insane to me, and it's amazing, but it's almost also a bit perplexing. So let's check it out.
When myself and Rob fought, that the tooth broke back for the first time.
This is when he's talking about, I guess, how he thinks he loosened Robert Whittaker's teeth. Who knows? Okay, let's keep
fight. And I know one that he has said, hey, give me this rematch. I deserve it. Did Khamzat do enough in your mind? You're the champion. Did he do enough to jump Sean? And does he deserve the next title shot against you?
Yeah, listen, I completely welcome the Strickland rematch. I would have, loved that to, get that finish because, for Sean, he needs a win back. I need a finish. And for him, he doesn't mind to fight boring fights like most of his fights. That's why he has, 7 or 8 split decision wins. For me, I go out there and I want to fight a guy that comes out there to throw down, not say that he's going to and then jab for 5 rounds. But once again, in our fight, myself and Sean, it was a close fight, but there was no doubt in my mind that I won that fight. But I said, if Whittaker comes out there and does something amazing, like get an early finish or, just, outfight Khamzat, he's definitely going to jump the gun because he deserves it. That's 3 wins in a row against top guys. And Strickland just beat Paulo Costa in a very boring fight once again after our fight. Whether it was close or not, it's still a loss. And then, of course, I also thought, Khamzat, they've hyped up this guy for so long, but he's not come to fruition. He hasn't lost, but with the fight cancellations, him being sick, and sometimes that's out of our control. But he went was the first guy to ever submit Rob, and he did in the first round, and that warrants a jump the gun on Sean Strickland for me. And if you ask me personally, that's a fight I would rather want, because it's a fight that the people want, it's a fight that more fans want, and I believe Khamzat is the next best guy.
I mean, it's just what a legend. Like that's kind of what we all want to see champions say. We want them to be, I mean, he's going for the toughest fight, and he's probably doing it because he probably does believe that he can beat him. He does believe that he can beat Chimaev. And at this level, probably anybody could beat anybody. I'm sure his odds are better against other people than Chimaev, but he wants that fight. And I think he knows that if he climbs that mountaintop, this will set him up for superstardom. Because think about it. He's beat Whitaker. He's beat Strickland. He's beat Izzy. 3 former champs are on his resume for his last 3 fights. That's insane.
Wait,
so,
you're talking about
Duplessis. I'm talking about Duplessis, which is insane because everybody kept thinking like he was so bad and so terrible and just looked awful with this.
I was one of them, man. I was one of them.
Me too. Me too. His like, just like looking at his Muay Thai striking, it looks so sloppy and it's just confusing. And but he just toughs it out. He's tough as heck. He's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of strength. So he's calling out Khamzat. Now, I know Sean's your teammate, so let's not go over which fight you want to see specifically, but yeah, what does this say to you about Duplessis as a champion, just his mentality?
Dude, I like it, man. I like everything he says, regardless of Sean being my teammate. One thing I don't agree with, and I feel like Sean's getting a lot of flack saying he has boring fights. Here's the thing. Who has walked Sean down? Who has walked him backwards for 5 rounds? Sean is constantly moving forward. You want to see an exciting fight? I mean, you got to get a guy that's going to meet Sean in the middle and bang it, because that's where Sean wants to go. And yes, he does inch forward, but very rarely do you see him go backwards. Now, and when someone starts pushing Sean around and Sean's just jabbing to survive, then we can call it a boring fight. But unfortunately, nobody's really answering the bell. And yeah, he has had a bunch of decision wins, but nobody's really answering the bell. When Sean pushes him, he's not getting a lot of pushback. They're trying to dance around and catch their angles and stuff instead of getting in that pocket. I actually like Sean's style, and it sounds weird, because I talk shit about all these other guys, and maybe I am biased because he's my teammate. But he walks guys down in fights. He walks guys down in the gym, and nobody has an answer for him. So I think that's why he's going to decision. Now, going to DDP and his call out, I mean, he's the champ. If that's what he wants, that's what he should get.
And I mean, dude, if he does, I don't think he's going to beat Chimaev, though. I think Chimaev's already favored 2-1 in the odds. I think Chimaev is going to blast DDP. I hate to say it. I think that his strength, I mean, Robert Whitaker's a super strong guy as well. Maybe DDP is a little bit stronger, but I don't think he's going to have an answer for Chimaev. Plus, I still think Chimaev's striking is very underrated. So whatever DDP wants to do on the feet, fine. But I mean, Chimaev's going to get him down. I think, who was it that also took DDP down? Was it Whitaker or was it Brunson? I can't remember, but I know he's been taken down recently in one of his recent fights, and fairly easily is my recollection. I'll have to rewatch that and watch it back. I just think Khamzat's going to steamroll him, sort of similar to what he did to Robert Whitaker. He's going to knock him out. But I want to see that fight. And I love that Duplessis believes in himself, and I love that he's calling for it because he knows, and I was thinking about this the other day too. It's like, a lot of fighters, it would make sense logically to just go for the easiest target, whatever that he believes that may be. Maybe he believes it to be Strickland. Maybe he believes it to be Izzy again. I don't know. Or maybe he does believe it to be Chimaev. So it's like, yeah, a lot of times you would want that. But what's cool, and I was thinking about this too, relative to like being an entrepreneur. A lot of times, no, we want to take on challenges that are super big and can lead to great things. Even if we fail and we know we have a higher chance of failure, it's just so exciting to take the world by storm and see if you can create something that's never been created. I think that's what Duplessis sees here. He wants to do something that's never been done. He wants to take out this guy that everybody believes could be the future of the sport, take him out early. And then he's saying after that might warrant maybe one more fight in his division. And then he wants to move up because he's big for the division. So I love that. And, even though I want to see Khamzat win and dominate and come, make this prophecy come true that I predicted months ago, that he'll be the greatest fighter in the history of the UFC. While I want to see that happen so badly, Dricus would be the one guy in this case where I could kind of get behind him if he did happen to win, because I think that would be very cool for him and his future and all the things that he's done. So I think this is very exciting. And I guess we don't know. We still don't know. The US Dana White said this Tuesday he had to have more updates on what's going to happen. Still nothing's come out as far as I can tell. So still maybe Sean, but I think what's undeniable is if it's not Chimaev next, which I hate to say, I do think it should be. I think that fight is so big. Chimaev's red hot right now. Come off that win. It's going to be huge versus a rematch. I think it's just much more compelling and much more interesting. But regardless what happens, if they do put Sean in next, Khamzat's going to get the fighter. So it's going to be super cool either way. Okay. Next, moving on to topic number 3, we had a really, really fun call out. I love this call out. Michael Venom Page is calling out Shara Bullet at middleweight, which would mean that he would have to move up to middleweight. But I thought this was such a cool call out. What did you think?
Love it, man. Especially a welterweight going up. This is a striker's delight. MVP's calling him out because Shara Bullet, man, he's coming in with incredible striking, dynamic striking, I'll even say. With this double spinning back fist. No, I've never seen it hit in a fight. I've seen it hit in practice, but again, to risk it all and hit it in a fight is just incredible. MVP, Taekwondo style, dance around on his feet. This is a fight for the ages. This is a fight for strikers only. I don't see anybody going to the mat in this fight.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, well, that would be actually pretty funny if MVP shot a takedown or vice versa. That'd be pretty interesting. But this is such a great fight. And it's great for Shara Bullet, too, because it's a name. It's a very recognizable, well-known name. Yeah, he's moving up, but I think it's going to be such an exciting and fun fight. So I love this call. I think it's brilliant from MVP as well in terms of just choosing somebody that's going to be a fun matchup, a fun fight, and something that has a great chance to win. Do you have a feeling? Do you have a leaning as to how it would go?
Man, I don't know. Shara right now, he's red hot, dude. He's coming off knockout. He's on a 4-fight win streak. MVP, I think, lost his last fight. And he's older, man. He's like 40. He's almost 40. So, I think this, and he's going up a weight. I got Shara Bullet all day in this fight.
I think I got Shara Bullet too, but I will say, man, MVP has really come out. I think he lost to Ian Gary last fight. But he did really surprise us. Like, I thought he did great against Kevin Holland when he got that victory. Oh, let me just see how old he is exactly. He is 37. He'll be 38 in April. 37. We have a lot of guys that are doing great, especially at some of these slightly higher weight classes. But yeah, he beat Kevin Holland, then he lost to Ian Gary, but I think it was a decision. Yeah, it was a decision. So I agree with you, though. Shara Bullet all the way. I can't wait to see that. Okay. Let's get into topic number 4. We got a lot of stuff happening in the next 2 weeks. We got Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul on November 15th. That's 2 weeks from today. Now, oops, I lost it. Hold on. I had training footage of Mike Tyson pulled up. Justin, I know you're not super excited about this fight, but just let me get your thoughts. Like, Tyson looks really good. Hold on. Let me show you this. 1 second. Here, let me show you. Okay, check this out. This is so cool. He looks amazing. His head movement, his speed, his power. Check it out.
It's not how old you are, it's how old.
And this guy, by the way, right here, I think this is a former coach of like Muhammad Ali or something. So he's been in the game forever, and they're having like this long conversation. The whole thing was taped. It's super cool. But anyways, let me fast forward to the part where he gets up and starts training.
You know, 1 second. It's just like that. Yeah, so far. Exactly. Did more workouts than what I've seen you than the whole time you fought Lennox Lewis. Am I right or wrong? Different era, brother. It's a whole new ball game. I'm proud of you, Mike.
For everyone claiming all of Jake's fights are rigged, why did Tommy Fury beat him? Jake has been fighting smaller, older men from different sports. Personally, I think Mike postponed the fight on purpose to make...
Okay, whatever. So I don't know what this commentary is afterwards. Justin, take it away. What did you think? Are you impressed or no?
Dude, Mike Tyson is 58 years old. He's fighting a young, strong, hungry Jake Paul. If Mike Tyson pulls this off, in my opinion, I will think he will be the #1 most dangerous man in the history of combat sports in all combat sports.
And do you think he pulled it off?
No, I don't. I think he's too old, and he looks great hitting the bag. He's hitting with power. He's hitting with speed, but the bags don't hit back. And I just don't think his brain. I mean, you got to think Mike Tyson, dude. He has been around. Dude, he was fighting for world championships before I was born, man. And you know his lifestyle for a long time, heavy drug use. The bad diet of his weight going up and down. Now he's 58. I'm sure he's on TRT. I'm sure he's on, some good juice to try to keep him going. But I just don't think his head's going to be. I think when he gets hit by Jake Paul, I think bad things are going to happen. Jake Paul hits like a Mack truck, man. I mean, look when he hit up Tyron Woodley. And you know what's so stupid? Like when he knocked out Tyron Woodley, like right before he does it, he's in a stance and he kind of like shakes his glove like this. And everyone like, oh, that's the tell. That's the tell that he was giving Tyrone that he's going to knock him out. Like, shut the fuck up. That's fucking stupid. Tyron Woodley is way too proud and a former UFC champ just to let some guy knock him out. You know what I mean? It's like he's not going to let this little white boy come in here and knock him out in front of millions and millions of people. That's just not his style. So with that being said, Jake Paul can fucking crack. I just don't think Mike Tyson's going to be able to handle those shots. Now, if Mike lands that left hook short right hand, I mean, he could knock out Jake too. But unfortunately for Mike, I just don't see it happen. And I want it to happen. I want it to happen more than anything. Because like I said, if Mike at 58 years old goes in there, beats Jake Paul, who's beaten Anderson Silva, who's beaten Ben Askren, who's beaten Tyron Woodley, who went to decision with Tyson Fury, or not Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury, and he goes in there and beats this cat. Mike Tyson's the baddest man, the baddest man to ever be on the planet, in my opinion.
How much hard? So his last fight, Mike Tyson was against, I think, Roy Jones Jr., right? How much harder do you think Jake Paul hits than Roy Jones Jr.?
Well, we're talking about different weight classes. Roy Jones Jr. was like a lightweight, man. I think he weighed 200 pounds coming up. I think when he was boxing, he might have been even boxing. And I might be wrong. I get my boxers mixed up a lot, especially in the 80s. But I think he was like, man, I think he was small, like really small. So I think Jake Paul is going to hit 10 times harder than him. He definitely won't be as fast, but I think he's going to hit a lot harder.
Let me double check. I'm going to look all this up right now. Hold on. I'm going to go to Mike. God, his Wikipedia page is humongous. Okay. So let's check this out here. So we're going to go to, let's go to this screen share. Let's look through all of Mike Tyson's stuff here. Now, this is his, so the professional box. So that fight was an exhibition. Let me see if I can.
I think the rule was no knockouts. They had a no knockout.
Yeah, I think so too. And it wasn't scored. It wasn't scored as I remember. Roy Jones, it was a draw because they just, okay. Let me see what his weight class was. Wait, how is he a lightweight? Okay, wow. He fought so many things. Middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, cruiserweight.
What is middleweight?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Because then it's different. Oh, wow.
154 pounds. Exactly.
That's crazy. What? I did not know this. But then eventually, when did he move up to heavyweight? He moved up to heavyweight at some point.
Maybe to fight Mike.
Maybe only to fight Mike. Okay, I did not know that. So maybe there is quite a difference between his punching power and Jake's. Okay, well, that's good to know. Fair enough. His speed does look amazing. And so you think the biggest tell or the biggest problem for Mike is just basically his ability to take a punch at this age. That's what you think is going to be the hardest thing to overcome?
I think there's that, and his cardiovascular health is going to be dampened too. I mean, at 58 years old, like how much output can you really have? How much output on your lungs? How much output on your heart? And again, he lived a crazy lifestyle. If you've ever read the book or watched the documentary of Mike Tyson, this guy is a party animal. All those drugs, all that cocaine, I mean, that wasn't good for his heart, and now he's going to go in there juiced up, and a lot of times TRT will thicken your blood and make it harder to pump. So now you have this compromised heart from all the years of drug use and partying and training, and now you're thickening your blood with your TRT and trying to pump more through. I think he's going to gas out a lot faster.
Oof. Okay. See, I didn't know any of that. Celine did say Tyson can win. Be careful. I'm sure he can. I mean, I
want him to, man. I want him to. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here, and unfortunately, I want Mike to win so bad. Like, This is just because I think somebody else is going to win doesn't mean I don't. Mike Tyson's, dude, his attitude, his aura. You look at the guy; he's the most intimidating guy you could ever have a stare off with. Like Mike Tyson is a legend. He's my favorite fighter of all time, including out of MMA fighters. Man, like just the way he carries himself. That is, I mean. Dude, look at his trash talk, man. He's used to talk about I'm gonna make you my wife. Like what? Like where is this guy? He's the original X-rated version of Conor McGregor. He is the X-rated version of Conor McGregor. He's the only guy better at trash talking than Conor McGregor. When Chael Sonnen came on scene, he kept things civil. He talked trash, but he wasn't telling guys he was gonna rape them. He wasn't telling guys he was gonna eat their kids. You know, Mike Tyson is the original OG X-rated version of trash talk. Then Chael Sonnen came in, kind of made it PG-13, and then Conor McGregor danced on both.
All right. Well, that is this topic. That's 2 weeks away, guys. 2 weeks from today, November 15th. I mean, it's going to be streamed on Netflix. What the heck? This is going to be so cool. Taking place in Arlington, Texas, of all places. So now we come to the final topic. Yes, Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul in 2 weeks. Yes, that's amazing. But what's more amazing, in my opinion, despite what all the people are saying, all the haters are saying, is Jon Jones is returning. And this may very well be his last fight, his last walk to the octagon. Maybe not. Maybe he will take on Tom Aspinall. Maybe God will come down and make this Francis Ngannou fight happen. I don't know. Who knows, right? Probably unlikely. But Jon Jones is fighting. He is the greatest fighter of all time in mixed martial arts. I think people won't deny that. He's had so many title defenses. He's coming back. And I just want to say, I hope people are not getting bogged down by all the negative nonsense that's been talked about this fight, about why is he fighting Stipe? He should be fighting Tom Aspinall. Well, whatever it is. This fight has been made by the UFC, not by Jon Jones. The fight is happening, and it's time to get hyped because it's probably the last time we're going to see both of these fighters. And both of these fighters are amazing. Both of them should be, deserve their credit and deserve their due and deserve this fight. And I, for one, am very excited. I don't know about you, Justin. I want to know your thoughts in a second, but I can't wait to see this fight. And maybe Tom Aspinall is better than Stipe. I don't know. Or maybe it'd be a tougher challenge for Jon Jones. We don't know. Maybe Stipe wins. We don't know. So let's just appreciate the fight that's here. Let's be excited. Let's not hate on Jon Jones for ducking anybody because he didn't do anything. This is the UFC wanted to make this fight. He also wanted to make it, but the UFC wanted to make it. And it is what it is. He got injured and he had to wait out. And that's why they had an interim title fight in between. And when he made the fight, Tom Aspinall was not the interim champ. So I don't see any problem with this fight. This is me just going off on a rant, but I'm just tired of the negativity draped around Jon Jones, especially somebody who's had this long of a career. And then people want to throw in like personal attacks. That's just not relevant to this conversation. He has done what he's done. This is a tremendous fight. This is why are people getting so excited to see, Nick Diaz come back? He's an old school legend, right? This is the same thing. I think people are just upset because the belt's on the line. They think Aspinall should have the belt. Well, it's just not how it went. It's not how it's going to go. He's got the belt. He's the most decorated fighter of all time. I want to see the fight. I can't wait. Justin, are you excited? What's your feeling on this fight?
This is a nostalgic fight for me, man. And I'm gonna tune in. But what's crazy is like how bad the UFC is doing by advertising this because I had no idea it was in 2 weeks. And that's the thing. Like when Conor McGregor fights, the year before. Like he fights he's fighting April 3rd, 2025. And the UFC every week is gonna pump that in our face. I almost feel like they're realizing that this isn't gonna do great on pay-per-view buys because I haven't seen a lot of advertisements for it. I mean, intermittently I have, but it hasn't been jammed down our throats like Khabib, Conor McGregor, or Conor McGregor against anybody. This has just been kind of like, all right, this is the main event on that date. Again, I didn't even know it was in 2 weeks. So that just goes, and I'm on Instagram, I'm on social media every day, plugging away, looking for the news. And this one just kind of slid through the cracks on me. I'm excited to see it. It's nostalgic. I think Jon Jones is going to go in there and handle him. I think this is a layup fight for him. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Stipe can come make it competitive, but he just hasn't fought in so long. And taking such a long layoff with all that ring rust, not to mention going against the best fighter in the history of the sport ever, I just think he's being set up for failure. I know he says that he thinks he can win, but we all say that regardless of the situation. Maybe he's just collecting a huge payday. Who knows? They're labeling as the two best heavyweights in the world. I disagree. Francis knocked out Stipe in the first round, so I don't think he gets that title. And that was 3-4 years ago, back when Francis was actually in the UFC. So, like I said, I am going to tune into the fight, but I think this is a layup for Jon Jones to cement his legacy.
it might be a layup for him, but I feel like, okay, I think the reason why the UFC hasn't advertised this so much is because they've gotten so much fan backlash. This is my theory, and so they're just trying not to push it or promote it too much until the week of the fight. And then I think once we get in there, Jon Jones is going to step in. We're going to start seeing some interviews of him. I think that's going to bring the hype up because like Jon Jones has been silent. He hasn't gone on any shows. He hasn't done any appearances, and I think that week, let's let him come back. And I bet you the PR team is probably working with him on like, hey, how should we position this? People are going to ask about Tom Aspinall. They're going to ask you this. They're going to ask you that. Like getting him set up, what to say and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, yeah, let's go, Tom. Let's bring it. Well, let's talk after the fight. If you really want it, you think I'm running? I've ever ran from anybody in my life. This is the fight that was set up. Let me do my thing with Stipe and then we can talk. I don't know. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if they just bring everything down that way, you know, and then get fans excited again that week, and then maybe they'll do a big build up then. And if this is,
I think you're spot on. I think it's a setup. I think he's going to roll through Stipe, and then Dana White's going to announce Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones. I think that's definitely in the possibility. Definitely possible.
Now, do I think the Tom Aspinall fight actually happens? That I don't know. But I think he might say, at least at the beginning of that week, that he might be open to it. But I don't know if it'll actually happen. I can talk about why I'm a little uncertain that will actually come to fruition in a second. But then you also mentioned, hey, you think they're throwing him a layup. Okay. But I mean, people were still excited about Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera. That was pretty much a layup. I mean, we've seen this before in the sport of mixed martial arts, especially when you can tell they kind of want a champion to keep going and keep winning. And we kind of saw that with Alex Pereira, even though it was a very, very, very competitive fight, more so than we anticipated. But we just saw that with him against Khalil Roundtree, and people were still excited. It was still a great fight. So while you may think that, and that may very well be true, I just hope people can still recognize that this is still going to be a fun fight, I think. And even if Jon Jones runs through him, like, that's still dope. Stipe is not like 65. He's barely in his early 40s, and he's still probably a very competitive fighter, and he could still win. Lane, I want to post your comment here. You said you're not remotely excited for this fight. I mean, can you just tell me, I really am curious to know why are you not remotely excited at all? Like, isn't that interesting to see Jon Jones defend the title and cement himself as a much more sturdy kind of like double champ? Does that give you any excitement? Okay, Lane also says Tom is standing by to fill in. That's right. Tom is the backup fighter, Tom Aspinall. So who knows? Who knows how this is going to unfold?
Stipe gets hurt. Stipe gets hurt Saturday, man.
You never know.
I mean, you never know.
Now, if Stipe got hurt, holy smokes. What if Jon refused to fight Tom Aspinall? I've heard Jon Jones is not real big on taking replacement fighters. Like, he wants to do proper preparation. He does like a lot. I've heard too that he even goes on and will troll his opponent online, and he'll do like crazy like psychological warfare leading up to the fight, like almost like a stalk. I've heard that. Like, he'll literally do that to his opponents, and so he wants that build up. Man, what do you think the backlash would be if Tom was the backup fighter and Jon refused to fight him? What do you think would happen?
Ooh, man, we'd be coming out with a lot of new videos. I'll tell you that, with a lot of views, because you can't be considered the greatest fighter of all time and turn down a fight. Unfortunately, it's just not how it works, especially with how cruel MMA fans are. I would get it. I, as a fighter, would totally understand and support his decision regardless. But casual MMA fans are some of the worst people in the whole world, some of the worst people I've ever met, some of the worst people I've ever talked to. And they would have a lot to say about it, and it would be all negative.
Okay, last hypothetical before we end the show today. What if Stipe gets hurt, Aspinall goes in, and Jon steamrolls Aspinall, just smokes him in the by let's say by the second round, just beats him? Then what?
Dude, he's the greatest of all time. There's no debate, and I wouldn't even waste my time with anybody saying otherwise. If someone said, "Oh, you're wrong," I wouldn't even engage in the conversation. I would just turn away and walk away, because to do what he's done for as long as he's done in the division, and fight the best of the best over and over and over. I mean, he's been like UFC champ for like over 10 years. It's something insane. Like, you just can't argue with that anymore, man. And this guy comes from an incredible pedigree. Both his brothers, or three of his, if he has three brothers or two brothers, they all play in the NFL. I mean, this guy was born to be a champion, just like his brothers are as well. And I mean, Jon Jones, I mean, George St. Pierre, I always thought was one of the greatest of all time. And he definitely is. And he's still in the great talk for me, just because I'm such a fan. But Jon Jones and him it would be just straight eye to eye, and some people would argue one way and some people would argue the other way, and I'd be fine with either of them. I'd say they're both. I'd say they're both right.
If Jon Jones, if that somehow happened, if Stipe had to pull out and Jon Jones goes in and he smokes Aspinall, it would silence everybody. It would be so cool. And I love Tom Aspinall. I'm just saying from a story arc perspective, that would be wild. Okay, Lane's got a couple of comments. Lane did respond. Jon isn't sturdy in my opinion. Stipe is irrelevant. Okay, I could have gotten excited about Jon versus Tom, but honestly don't think that'll ever happen. So hey, if maybe it does happen, let's see what happens in terms of injuries and pullouts. Then there's the rewarding his bad behavior. I just like, I get you. And I know MMA Guru focuses on this all the time. I just like, I try to the best of my ability to, I don't know. It's a sport. I just don't think, I just don't feel like one has like, he's not being rewarded for that. He's being rewarded for his fight performances. And that's something separate. And yeah, I don't know. And he, I don't know. It's just like, he hasn't had charges filed against him. We had the incidents that have happened, and I don't know where to go with that. You know what I mean? He's not a convicted whatever, you know, for assault or battery. So I don't know. I mean, Justin, what do you think? I just don't even like to mix those conversations because I don't have the full story.
Yeah, you don't have the full story. There's always two sides to every story. I mean, I look at my personal life, and my personal life is very separate from my professional life. And when you start mixing people's personal lives, you know, you can't, I mean, who are we to judge, man? We just had a Halloween party this past weekend. Who are we to judge what somebody does on their free time? Dude, he's always respectful in the cage. He always puts on a great performance. Had a great rivalry with Daniel Cormier. I thought they did incredible with that. You know, I don't think what he does outside the cage or in his normal everyday life should affect his status as being an incredible fighter.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is Lane did post this, said, then why isn't Tom being rewarded for his fights? I think that Tom is being rewarded for his fights. I think there's just a line and there's a build up right now at heavyweight because we have Jon. I mean, Tom is next. His next fight is for the title. It's happening. It's undeniable. And I don't think it's necessarily he's being punished for his great performances. He just has to wait in line and he has to fight the winner of this fight. Or if they vacate the title, then he's up, I'm sure, for a vacant title, or maybe they'll give it to him. I don't know how it's going to work, but I don't think he's being punished for his for his fights or anything. He is being rewarded. It's just, it is what it is. It's the nature of the heavyweight division right now. You got a legend in there, just like other people have to take second line and wait when Conor was in the mix, right? Like there's probably Khabib had to sit around and wait, and he didn't complain about that, by the way. He's like, I understand the UFC is trying to make money, etc. So, hey, that's about it. Lane says fair enough. Amazing. So it sounds like we can end right here. We've come to somewhat of a mutual agreement. So that's fantastic. Guys, we had a blast today. I hope you guys enjoyed as well. If you did like this video, make sure to click that like button. And again, let us know in the comments as well as the chat here or the comments after the fact. What other additional content would you like to see from this channel? Because we're about to triple down, get even more serious about our content production and creation. And let us know about things that maybe are missing from the world of YouTube MMA that you'd like to see us take on. All right, without further ado, thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you in the next episode. Take it easy.